Chapter 14. The Sumerian Legend. 1:24 a.m. From the balcony of my room, I could see the city stretching towards the river. It had recently rained, and there was a glow in the air, almost surreal, a result of the humidity and the reflection of the lights on the wet asphalt. I smoked my cigarette and pondered the chain of events and its improbability. I chuckled inwardly. I knew perfectly well that she had dragged me to Lisbon for this, to destroy in me the image of that woman who had left so many scars. It was curious how in such a short time she had become just a comical case. As opposed to a life story, Lilith had brought about a catharsis in me. Nevertheless, I couldn't help but view the coincidences with strangeness, and they kept coming to my mind, causing me restlessness and unease. Who was I dealing with? She came to the balcony, took the cigarette from my hand, took a long drag, and handed it back to me. She slowly exhaled the smoke and said,
"A penny for your thoughts."
"They're not worth that much."
"Then offer them."
"I was simply thinking about who you really are. If you are who you claim to be, if you're not, and even if you are, how can I distinguish you from the legend surrounding you?"
"You can do it by knowing the legends first and then listening to me to get my version of the facts. In the end, you choose whom to believe. You know, the biblical legend is not the oldest written about me."
"No."
"No. It's perhaps the one that comes closest in concrete terms, but it's not the oldest. Come with me."
I followed her to the living room, where the laptop was. She opened it, quickly searched the internet, and turned the laptop to me.
"Here you go."
"And what is this?"
"The oldest legend about me. The Sumerian myth."
Without further ado, I began to read. Before the stars were born, before people built great cities, the great mountain of Atlan paradise trembled, and bled igneous blood, and gave birth to Lilith. The land all around burned, many animals and people died. When Lilith opened her eyes, she saw the ashes of her birth, and cried tears like rain. Lilith's tears became rivers and streams. Flowers grew where Lilith walked, trees grew where Lilith sat. The ashes became fertile soil, and an orchard became her home. In Lilith's orchard, many animals people came to live in paradise. Lilith gave them grain and taught them to sow and reap. Lilith made bread and beer. People rejoiced, ate and drank. One day a great prince came to the land of Atlan. He saw Lilith and courted her. But Lilith rejected and scorned him. The great prince became very angry. He ambushed 2 lions and killed them. Lilith cried for the lions. She cradled their heads in her arms. The lions awoke to her tears. They licked the tears from her face and grew strong. They became loyal friends of Lilith. The great prince saw this and courted her again, but she turned into a bird and flew away from him. Angry, the prince began to hunt birds. Lilith saw this and was disturbed. To offend the prince, she spat at him and mated with a serpent. Lilith gave birth very quickly. Her child was like no other. The child had 6 arms. The child had the tail of a serpent. The child was very strong. Lilith called the child a Marilith. The Marilith attacked the great prince. The great prince and the Marilith fought. They fought day and night, night after night, and day after day, but neither could win the fight. Lilith saw this and mated again. Another Marilith was born, and another and another. 216 were born. Fearful, the great prince fled. The people of the orchard rejoiced. The Mariliths cultivated the land. The Mariliths protected the people, but the great prince vowed vengeance, and cursed the mountain Atlan and its land. Atlan was angered by this curse. The mountain and the land trembled. Atlan trembled and bled and cried. Its igneous blood made fires, and its tears caused floods. Terrified, Lilichu turned into a great bird. She grabbed the people by the feet. She carried the animals on her back. The Maralites and the lions also carried people. Together they fled from the land of Atlan. Lilichu went west and east. Lilichu went north and south. Finally, she came to dry land. The people greatly thanked Lilichu. The people built statues in her honor. Lilichu cried for her lost home. Her tears formed to rivers. The rivers joined and flowed into the ocean. People grew grain on the river banks. People grew large orchards. They built buildings and stone towers. The people grew healthy, and the land became rich. Traders came from distant places. News of the land's wealth spread. The great prince heard of the land. He sent his heralds to inquire of his lady. But Lilichu fed her lions with the heralds. The great prince sent an army, but the Maralites destroyed his army. Finally, the great prince went. When he saw the beautiful orchards, when he saw the Maralites with 6 arms, the great prince knew the lady was Lilichu. Fearful, he disguised himself as a woman. The great prince went to the temple of Lilichu. His disguise fooled the people, but the lions knew his scent. The 2 lions armed Lilichu, and she set a trap. Lilichu called 36 young men. She filled a room with 36 silver platters, ordered the death of 36 animals, and when she was ready, invited the people to the banquet. People came from all over the land. The great prince also came. The great prince arrived in disguise, but Lilichu recognized him and welcomed him as an honored guest. The great prince accepted her hospitality. He sat before all the people. The 36 young men were called. Please choose a man, Lilichu ordered. Not wanting to be rude, the great prince chose one. Lilichu asked the great prince to sit next to the young man. The silver platters were brought out. People feasted on the flesh of the 36 animals. Great gifts were brought. Lilichu gave them to the great prince. Confused, the great prince accepted. Then the banquet finally ended. With curiosity, the great prince questioned Lilichu. Do you always give such grand gifts to strangers? Only at their wedding, Lilichu replied. Realizing what had happened, the great prince became enraged. He removed the disguise, brandished his sword and dagger. Why did you make me marry this man? He asked. So that you can never marry me, Lilichu replied. Enraged, the great prince attacked Lilichu. The 2 fought tirelessly, for Lilichu was very strong. Whenever the prince became daring, Lilichu turned into a bird. The great prince fell to the ground and wept in despair. The great prince professed his love for her, promised that he would never leave her, prepared to cut his own throat. Finally, Lilichu grew tired of this game. She felt pity for the great prince. I will grant you a kiss, Lilichu declared. Desperate, the great prince accepted. And at the moment the kiss was given, his body flooded with life, and then death. So great was the pleasure of a kiss, that he died. Lilichu cried for the great prince. But the great prince remained dead, saddened. Lilichu knew that she could never love. No mortal man could taste her kiss and live. Her tears brought life. But her kiss, just death.